Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Chris, joined by Milton, Ben, and a surprise guest, Din from F-105. Here we are for Outer Rim Transmission 155. So, yes, we're getting all into The Acolyte. It's coming out next week, so I brought on reinforcements, but Din is also here to talk about his band. So first off, welcome to the show, man.
Okay, am I meant to be talking because you just finished talking, but I still hear you talking?
Am I lagging? Is anybody else seeing the lag?
No, you're good on my end, Chris.
Okay,
you're
it
good.
might just because we're going across country barriers. Din, for those of you that aren't aware, is from Toronto. So there we go.
Oh, sorry. Maybe it's because I had the YouTube window open. I closed that. Is everything good now?
Oh yeah, everything's fine.
Okay. Hey, thank you. Good to be here.
Heck yeah. So man, me and you go back a long time. We go back. It was the Star Wars Celebration, probably 2022, Anaheim. You probably were at Chicago, but I don't know if I met you back then. But you know, you're in the sphere with the guys at the Star Wars Underworld podcast, and you've been going and doing some awesome work, doing a lot of tours with your band. You play just a variety of music. So, do you mind sharing like what your inspiration is, what your influences are, what your music sounds like, your creative process? I know I'm throwing like 5 questions at once, but hey, just give us a rundown of what F-105 is all about.
Yeah, my brain can only handle one thought at a time, or I start to like sparks go off and short circuit. So, but first off, Celebration Chicago 2020. We met officially in the celebration panel with Ahmed Best.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I complimented your fantastic Luke Skywalker locks, and Dominic fell asleep, if you remember.
Yes, that was great. There was a picture he put up
Yeah.
recently on Facebook about that.
Yeah. That was that moment. Yeah, we were all sitting together. My music is which was the first question?
Basically, what is your band about? What do they sound like, or what do you think they sound like? You know, type of, just to give the audience here an idea of what they can expect.
Well, what I call F-105 rock and roll.
All
And
right.
I don't mean that in the sense that we sound like a classic rock and roll from the 50s, but I do feel like what I've been trying to bring back all this time is the roll part of rock, which has been gone for decades and decades, probably since the 80s. And it's just called rock now. And I think that what I'm trying to say is that it should move. It should make you want to move. And it doesn't necessarily mean it has to sound like rock and roll. It's sort of like hip hop to me has become the same thing. It doesn't make people move anymore. And it's lost that like rock and roll, like rock, it lost that what's the word I'm looking for? The opposite of cerebral, like the physicality. So I think that there's a lot of spirit. There's a lot of like spiritual stuff in my music, but then love and all, you know, in all its forms and all the other stuff. But at the end of the day, I want it to make you move. Yeah.
Heck yeah. And so, how many album releases have you had thus far?
Well, my first project, The Souls, SOLES, you knew me after that, that's what broke me into fandom and got big on some like at the time the podcast. I won't mention it. I'm not going to promote it, you know, but this podcast that gave me my start, which basically played a song, a Star Warsy song I did every week. It had like 100,000 listeners a month at the time, and they were like one of the first popular podcasts altogether on iTunes. So that's what got my music into Star Wars fandom. I really just started experimenting with the hero's journey too in my writing to see if that would connect with people like it works for, you know, like it worked for George Lucas. Yeah, and then that's also when I started to get like actual radio play, not just college, but some FM and satellite.
Mm.
And I think it was a confluence of influences and maybe, obviously, hopefully getting musically better, but there is definitely something about the hero's journey which does connect to people. And I think if you use it uh, sensitively, like in a real way, not like a PDF of the steps, but if you really internalize it and put it into your storytelling, I think it can't not connect with people. Yeah, so I think that's essentially what my music is. It's sort of hero's journey music that will make you move, at least your head.
Yeah, yeah. What I really like about your kind of music is just the way you infuse Star Wars elements, of course, into it. Like you're talking about not just surface level stuff. You're talking about, like you're mentioning, the hero's journey, everything that inspired George Lucas in creating everything. Uh, one of the songs is Rebel Girl. So, do you want to talk a little bit about that song?
Yeah, so that would have been so the first song I did with Star Wars references was with the Souls, and it was called Coals. And it was just basically about a breakup with my girlfriend. And I used a lot of Mustafar-ish type imagery in the second verse without
Mm.
literally using a word from Star Wars, like Mustafar or Anakin or something. And because I wanted it to work poetically, that if someone who's a big Star Wars fan could possibly pick it out, but if you weren't a Star Wars fan, you would have no idea, and it would still work as like a serious, singer songwriter song.
Mm-hmm.
And I just say that because singer songwriters tend to take themselves so seriously. But then the next song was the one I did for the podcast, and then the third song was Rebel Girl, and by then I had figured it out about really how to internalize the hero's journey and put it into songs.
Mm-hmm.
So Rebel Girl was because my brother's girlfriend's daughter, she had, because of The Force Awakens, become a huge Star Wars nerd at like 11 years old. And we could all of a sudden start having these great conversations. And so I just challenged myself because George Lucas, I'm very influenced by George Lucas, not just by Star Wars, but by his core values of like, how do you make art for kids? What do they need? What do they want? And that's always one of my first questions with anything I do.
Mm-hmm.
And two was, how can I make it sound not like dad rock, but still be authentic? And it's got to partly be dad rock, um, So Rebel Girl was my attempt to work with all those things, make it for my niece, for kids, but also a rock song. It's the Doors meets like the bass line and verse is the Doors, and the organ jam is Ray Manzarek, and then the chorus is the Ramones, and then the beat is we actually asked a producer who's indigenous actually asked a big group in Canada, a tribe called Red. They're now called Hallucination because of a legal thing, but they had a big song called Redskin Girl with a beat that went like a boom, 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 and it was very powwowish. And I just felt like when you heard that beat, you couldn't not move, no matter who you were,
Mm.
what age. So we asked permission if we could use that sample, and then our drummer played over it, and it worked. Like it ended up becoming a song that people, like teenage Star Wars. I had kids come up to me after doing a presentation on songwriting it was either Fan Expo Toronto or Comic Con, I can't remember, but these kids were like 13 and 14 and they loved the song. So
That's right.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, I'm just like passionate about not making like I got into rock music because it saved me as a teenager from all the crap going on around me. Like I was a '90s kid, and so Nirvana and all that, Rage Against the Machine and
mm-hmm.
Pearl Jam and all that stuff,
Yep.
that really saved my teenage years of going through a crazy. I was 13 and my parents divorced, so it was like you know, that's not good for a teenager.
Oh.
Because so that darkness was really filled with the light of rock and roll. So that's why I'm trying to always, why I love George Lucas. Like it's kind of easy to, I think, make a song and have someone my age go, oh, that's pretty cool. But to make a song that someone who's a teenager can connect with is really, really hard. Yeah.
That's the thing, right? Like we go through that moment, that milestone age range, right? You're going through so much, high school, all this kind of stuff, and then all this on your plate. And I was kind of the same way, in a way where I was like, oh, I found rock music around 13, 14, 15 years old, through more like osmosis of the culture, getting into skateboarding, and it just became like a part of that culture. Then I started playing and all that stuff. So, yeah, pretty much that's the thing, right? It's when you listen to rock music, you have a sense to just do good rock and roll. Like I like what you were saying before about getting up and dancing to something that just really special about the rock and roll that gets you on your feet.
Visceral. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. The word I wanted was visceral.
Visceral.
You
There
know
we go.
that.
In your
Yeah,
face, just
like when I
in.
listen to
Yeah.
Public Enemy, I can't
Mhm.
not want to like just or Rage Against the Machine. Just like you feel like like the walls are gonna be blown down from the force of it. You know,
Yep.
that's what
Yep.
I mean by movement.
So
Yeah, not
fast.
just
Yeah.
dancing, but that visceral, like
Yep.
physical, I'm alive thing.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
So fast forward to, I guess, just a couple weeks ago, you released a brand new album. Do you want to talk about what was your inspiration for the songs on that album, and just give a little bit of information on that?
Okay, I will be much shorter than I was before because my whole little diatribe on rock and roll and what I was doing is really again the same thing with this album. Someone recently on the Rebel Scum podcast said, "All your albums sound different but similar." That's on purpose too. I never want to repeat myself, but I guess what's me and the themes are always going to be similar, you know, no matter what I'm talking about. But this is a 3-song concept EP, which where each song is directly addressing a conversation with youth, sometimes a specific person or youth in general. And from my point of view as an old person, but not being an old person trying to be cool and young, but trying to have like an honest conversation about where I see, you know, from my mid 40s, my point of view, and so toys is an exploration of look this website up 2045project.com I think is the URL, or Google 2045 project. In Russia, they plan to have human consciousness by 2045 into a robot.
Hmm.
So you're conscious. So kids are growing up in that world, and the song Toys is about we need to think about technology and we need to have the conversation with our kids about technology because they're in a world which is going to look totally different by then, you know?
Mm.
And the second song, Songs for Our Kids, is because it's a fact that the industry won't sign bands like Green Day anymore. They don't want that. They don't want difficult people with a message. They want people that look good, that are easy to get along with and control, that will be making the money in the first quarter, not take 3 or 4 albums to make the money and develop. So the song's called Songs for Our Kids, and I'm addressing the fact that like I would hate to be in high school right now and not have those bands and songs helping
Mm.
me through that. And then the third song, Not Special, was a younger person, my friend from Japan who's a Japanese idol singer, and when she's trying to emigrate from Japan and be a musician in America. Now she's living in Costa Rica with her husband. At the time, she wasn't married, and it was hard for her because of the anti-Asian hate and stuff during those years of COVID. She was spit on, and she had this breakdown one day where she said something about not being famous meant she wasn't special, and I just had this window into that's how kids must feel now with likes and all that. Kids lose it if they go minus 10 followers, you know? So That's what that song's about. That's as quick as I can make it.
Well, no, that's what's.
Which song did you like the best?
I'm actually gonna play it right now. Why don't I just play it right now for the whole audience, right? So I'm gonna be
One you
playing.
like? Okay. All right.
I'm gonna be playing Toys right here, right now. So this is your. I was gonna try to be all trendy, be like, "This is your exclusive listen on the Star Raptor YouTube channel," but it's been out.
What do we do while the song's playing? Do I
I
like
just have I have another image of just the
karaoke?
album art, but yeah, you can do whatever you want, I
Okay.
guess. But all right, so here we go. This is Toys by F-105.
Now boarding the LA 610. This is called Toys.
Transfer my memories into a screen. I'll be a child again. Just let me dream. And as the monkey swings from tree to tree, we keep reaching for more without thinking about anything. So we make some noise. I brought my toys. It seems the farther I get, the further I don't go. Oh no. On infertility, nubile audacity. Oh, on the Nestle tadpole of anti-autonomy. So on the seedling, suckling brat boy, yeah. Oh, I'm the chrysalis mushroom with my meat and toys. So we make some noise. I brought my toys. It seems the farther I get, the further I don't go. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. I'll be Dingerin, yeah. You be Luke. We can't be anything, but we don't know where we're going to. We can't be anything when there's nothing we have to do. It's true. So we make some noise. I brought my toys. It seems the farther I get, the further I don't go. So we make some noise. I brought my toys. It seems the farther I get,
And there you have it. F-105 toys. There you go. There you go. Man, this is a great track, man. You can't help but just bob your head and weave through it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
me
good
too.
stuff.
Yeah, like if I'm not feeling that, then I don't want to. Even our live shows, like it's conversation that we have, with their drummer and bassist too. We found there's like a secret to making people move, which is not necessarily what you play, but how you play it.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
It's like you could be listening, some dance beat, but it's the nuances of the way they mixed it or the that make people want to move to it. Yeah.
yeah,
It's weird.
what I really dig about it is just the amount of different individual tracks going on at once. Like being able to listen to it with a decent pair of headphones. I usually just listen to the speakers. It's like you could really feel the fullness of just what the bass is doing, the harmonies of the chorus, everything. Just talk a little bit about what it's like to record in a studio, because I'd be very interested to see, because I've done a few things way back 20 years ago in some garage bands, and I was a drummer, but it was always a struggle for me to record. And are you recording each one of these instruments yourself, or how does that process work?
The last 3 albums, so we have one also recorded, supposed to be out in the fall, that the label canceled because they're not happy with the fact that I wasn't happy with them doing no promotion.
Hmm.
But like the last 3 albums, and I really want people to hear that the last 3 records, I don't really want to do tracking anymore, ever, because you can play the guitar. I could play you're the drummer, okay? I play the guitar and I lay it down. You could now, and then I go sit down, or I did it on another day. Now you're laying the drums, and you could react to what I did. I played the guitar harder at one point. You could hit the drum harder. But now that you did that, I can't react to you. So
Yeah.
a fundamental problem with tracking is that you don't get to react to each other. The reaction's just one way. So the last 3 records, I trained myself to be able to do in one day.
Oh.
And the band in one day too. So the 6-song EP that I'm talking about for the fall, we played those for 2 years and we recorded them in 5 hours, 1 or 2 takes each song.
Wow. Impressive.
The first F-105 record in Rebel Girl, we tracked, but that's the last time I want to do that. F-105 2 Side B, the acoustic one, I just went in and I played 8 songs in about 5 hours also, 1 or 2 takes, and we kept 6. But this one, I went in with my guitar and vocals and did that same way. 1 or 2 takes each song. For the 3 songs, I was done in like 2 hours. But it was only meant to be an acoustic album. And then we started laying stuff down because we realized they suggested much more in terms of how we can experiment, what we can make them be. And we put that out in time. We rushed it for Celebration Anaheim 2022, and I really disliked it because we didn't bring them home to that full place. So I convinced the label to let my other producer friend Alex, who he does sound for Disney shows. His brother is a head Imagineer on Rise of the Resistance.
Whoa.
So we have a real kinship there too, as far as what we like. And he was also in a professional punk band that toured the U.S. for 10 years. So he just said, well, if you let me do with this toys what I want to do with it without telling me, then I will do it and I'll have fun. And he just went funk nuts on it.
Oh, okay. I was
So
wondering
that's
how that
all
happened.
him.
I was wondering how, because you had a
But
different version of the song a couple of years ago, right? And then the style completely changed.
yeah, but if you go to my YouTube page, YouTube F105 / F105, one of the top feature videos is a show we did at Ontario Place, like a festival a few years ago. and he played drums, and it came out funky. So it was also that. It was also
Okay.
we played it funky first, and I agreed with him. I said, "Okay, make that version. That's great." But he just pushed it further. But then I always have a lot to say about the color, like little details. So I will have a lot to say about. I did 2 harmonies, and I kind of I hear them a little bit like this. So I had some say in that stuff, into what you're hearing in headphones and how fun that is. But mostly
Yeah.
Alex on that one.
Okay. What about the title? Because I'm actually going to be traveling to, we talked about this in a private message. I'm going to Venice Beach next month, actually. I'm going to get some skating,
Yeah.
maybe surf or something. But where does the reference come from? Peace Frogs and Venice Beach.
Does anyone know where Peace Frogs comes from?
Nope. Nope.
All right. Well, I fell in love with Venice Beach when I was there in 2022. Alex also is in love with it and plans to retire there. His family lives in LA, and his brother, like I was telling you about. The Doors famously, Jim Morrison. So I'm a huge Doors fan, and Jim Morrison hung out on Venice Beach and wrote songs under the pier.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I brought that. Like even in Toronto, if I have a day off, I'm going to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
So in Alex's mix, when he played that for me, I realized it has a 70s golden era Venice Beach vibe. Where you
Mm-hmm.
would have heard funky tunes like that. And then also it reminded me a bit of Peace Frog by the Doors,
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
which
so
is a funky Doors track.
okay. Well, now I gotta listen to it. As soon as it's done, I gotta listen to it. Um,
Yeah, it's a good one.
but yeah, so thanks so much for really taking us in for a deeper dive on how you create your sound, your inspirations, which is huge because if you don't have a story behind a track that you're passionate about, what's the point, right? So it's great to hear from the creator himself about what exactly is going through your head as you're making these what you think it means to you. That's awesome. So where can people find your stuff? I know you're going on a tour very soon, so just please plug everything about F-105.
Yeah, I'll just say one more thing about the little homages. There's homages over the whole thing. I won't go into all the songs, but for Toys, there's a direct Marvin Gaye homage right at the start of the song. Um, uh, an homage to the jam from the Shaft theme by Isaac Hayes. And so I'll just stop there. There's a Who homage and
Oh.
songs for our kids, but have fun with those. I'll be on tour in LA in a month, and I'll see you at Venice Beach. I'm touring from LA to Victoria, BC, a West Coast tour, which I'm trying not to cancel because now I need money to buy the masters from my former label. It's good. It's really like if you're a real artist, I imagine you have a story where the business side gave you a hard time for no good reason. And I really want to own my own masters because I love it. So I still hope to be able to do the tour and be able to pay for both. I intend to.
Yeah, is there
So
yes.
f105music.com has all the links to everywhere, or the handle is at all the social networks at F105music. And thank you for letting me talk about my songs.
Dude,
The pleasure is mine. All mine.
I love this. So if those of you, I don't know even know if I mentioned this on the chat. I just told you this then right before we recorded. But I used to actually my first podcast was a podcast with some friends that I called Audio Addiction, and it was literally about us doing a podcast every week with, bands that were not quite signed yet, but like more the underground alternative scene, rock, punk, hardcore, metal, stuff like that. So we would go to different shows. My friend Brandon still does it, so look him up, Audio Addiction. But yeah, we did that many years ago, talking about music news and just reactions to new songs that were put out by different bigger bands and stuff like that. So kind of stretched my creativity back into like I think that was 2012 or something like no, it was definitely later than that, probably 2000 maybe 2017 or something like that. We were doing that podcast. So yeah, going way back and a little bit of nostalgia here talking music, but yeah, please go ahead and support Din. I'm assuming, do you have like merch and stuff that they could buy to help you out and different things? Yeah.
Or for ordering online, I actually just started a TeePublic store. And that
Nice.
link is at the f105music.com. The album cover, everyone was telling me that the album cover made them want to listen to the music. It's of my niece listening to music on audiophile AKG Mark II headphones. And I just happened to see a pic on my brother's Instagram, same head.
There we go. There we go. So, besides an awesome music creator, man, you're a huge Star Wars fan. I mean, you've mentioned many times you've been to Star Wars Celebration. That's where we met, we hung out. So we're talking Star Wars. We're not just bringing you on here to talk about music, which is awesome, but we're gonna get your thoughts on the latest with the Acolyte. So first off, we're gonna just kind of go around the room here, so to speak, and give our levels of hype to open up the preview. We're gonna talk about just general stuff about the Acolyte because it's literally out in, what is it, like 2 days now? We'll be watching it. So yeah, Din, what is your overall, like, what's your level of hype right now? Are you pretty excited for this one?
Yeah, I'm probably a 10 out of 10. I would be an 11 out of 10 if we didn't just have Star Wars. Like, there's always Star Wars, so there's no waiting time. If I had to wait a bit longer for Acolyte, I'd be losing my mind like I used to in the 80s and 90s, waiting for some Star Wars, or late 20s, 2000s. But yeah, I saw Return of the Jedi in the theater when I was 8 years old, you know? Ironically, I should have the most nostalgia for OT, but the prequel era is my favorite. It's what opened up the galaxy to the potential, the unlimited potential that it is now. And I lose my mind when I see Anakin on screen or Ahsoka or a pod racer or a Naboo starfighter. Like, I just love that we're setting up that era now with the Acolyte. So I just talk so much, so that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, we'll do sort of like an opening salvo from each one of us. Milton, I want to get your thoughts on the Acolyte so far, what you've seen from different teasers. We've talked about one of the trailers before. You know, there's been a lot of images. There's been stuff coming out like left and right here, but yeah.
Yeah, I would say my hype level isn't a 10 out of 10, and that's not a negative, only because I've been avoiding reading or seeing anything. I'm wanting to go into this project not knowing much. This is probably one of the first Star Wars projects in a long time that I've not really paid attention to a lot of the marketing. I've really stayed away from a lot of, like, the little things that they release, and that's on purpose. I think because I'm trying to give this a fair chance. I'm trying to set my expectations at a level where I don't feel disappointed, because I don't think it'll be bad. And you guys know I'm fair on how I evaluate things, but I want to go into this not knowing much, because this is a different time period of Star Wars that we really don't explore within it when it comes to the live action, medium of Star Wars. So I'm excited for it. I wouldn't say hype yet. I think we'll have to see. Is it a 2-episode premiere for this week, or is this one episode? Okay. So I think once we get to those first 2 episodes, I think I'll have a better understanding where my level will be for excitement. But I'm definitely excited for the show. I'm just trying to avoid knowing much.
Yeah, I kind of take the opposite approach. I've been watching every little thing that comes out just for the
And
hell of
I'm
it.
usually like that. Usually I don't care about spoilers. I'll watch whatever.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we're going to see. I guess this will be the Silver Age of the Jedi's, or I
Yeah,
guess be the Golden Age, wherever you want to put it. So I'm always excited to see more Jedi's, more lightsabers. Obviously, the Sith, and their upcomings or whatever they're going to show in this particular show. So I want to just see how it plays out. So I'm not trying to really pay attention to everything right away. I want to avoid some of the marketing.
There you go. And I promised that I wouldn't talk spoilers, but yeah, there's some things that I try not to see, and I've seen. And I'm like, darn it, people putting these things in headlines. This is what I get for being so hyper focused on the internet all the time. What about you, Ben? What is your level of excitement for the Acolyte?
Yeah, I would say for my level of excitement, it's gone up and up from the beginning of this marketing campaign, just because initially it was kind of like, all right, we'll see what this is going to be about. And then, it's continued to increase by, via the trailers and such, like we've referenced many times before, like John Campea always says, like if the trailers increase your excitement level each time they release a new one, then it's doing its job. And they've continued to put out more and more trailers that continue to increase my excitement level. So I would say I'm still skeptically optimistic, just because of a lot of the to use our sports terminology here, like off the field stuff, like stuff that's been coming out publicly with people behind the scenes on the show and other people involved at Lucasfilm, different things in that regard. But like setting that sort of stuff aside, yeah, I'm excited for the show. Like I said, skeptically optimistic, skeptically excited. Like I think it has potential to be really good. And I'm gonna really, like Milton said, kind of go in, giving it a fair chance, etc. Like, I can like feel one way or another about like stuff that's been said, outside of the media, by people involved with it. But at minimum, like I'm the type of person, like I'll just leave it at the door when, I go in and watch the project. So that's what I'm going to do with this show. And, like we all hear, and I'm sure everybody hopes, hopefully this is a really good big hit show for Lucasfilm.
Yeah, great thoughts. For me personally, this is the show I've been waiting for since the buyout of Lucasfilm by Disney, right? Like we have had, and I love them, but like a lot of stuff that feels in the same era. Well, it is in the same era. We're dealing with the Rebels and the Galactic Empire, as we should. I mean, you're trying to rebuild the franchise up in the first couple of years, since there was nothing really coming up besides the Clone Wars. So it makes perfect sense that the strategy by Disney was be like, let's bring in, the iconography of Star Wars, the TIE Fighters, the X-Wings, the Death Stars, Chewbacca, Darth Vader, and all that. But we are now 10 years in. And I think at this point, I know a lot of other people are like, all right, let's move on to a different era. And this is the first time we're actually completely unconnected from the Skywalker saga. So for me personally, that's something that I've wanted to see for a long time. And I've been reading a lot about it with the High Republic already kind of making the charge through that new era already and doing a great job with that. But yeah, just to see something new, right? When we seen the Phantom Menace for the first time, it was like, whoa, this is so different. Everything is bright and shiny, and there's so many Jedi running around. And this is more or less kind of the same sort of thing where it's like, oh, wow, we got a bunch of different looking characters that we don't know anything about. So there's so much different elements to it. But yeah, for me, that was the big thing off the top of my head. Now, Din, have you partaken in any of the High Republic stuff? Have you? I know everybody around you is reading it. Dominic, Matthew. I don't know if you've heard a lot about it. If you jive with it, what are your thoughts on the High Republic?
Yeah, well, for Matthew, it's like a religion. So I hear a lot about it.
Yep.
He's like a High Republic fundamentalist. Sorry, Matthew. I hope you're listening.
I think he was in here earlier. Yeah.
I love Matt. By the way, he knows I like to rib him. So I haven't gotten into it only because I used to read so much Star Wars EU, but that was because we didn't have stuff on screen.
Yep.
It filled the void. And now that I can't even, it wasn't when Force Awakens came out. It's not just like the whole industry said between the Star Wars and the MCU, it was like, okay, those things are big. Now everything's going to be that. So I love it all. I love, all the 20 different Star Trek series and blah. I can't even find time to read. And when I do, I'm obsessed with studying ancient civilizations. Like I'm a Graham Hancock head and stuff like that. So to me, story that's emerging of the potential of our past or even what's out there in space and real life, all the stuff we're beginning to learn about our past and space has just become so much more even fascinating. Like Star Wars used to spark my imagination about everything that went on or in a galaxy far, far away. Now I'm finding the world is possibly even more interesting. Yeah. So given that I haven't gotten into the High Republic, but I certainly find this idea of examining where the hubris of the Jedi who think that they're at their height where the cracks in the armor are, and how that's going to tie into all the themes that George Lucas set up in the Phantom Menace. I think what I've been noticing from the High Republic, and I love watching people's shows where they, like, I love watching Ion Cannon with Matt because I'm just learning about the High Republic through him talking about it, and it sounds fascinating. You know, that it's like, to me, it sounds like that Yoda arc in the Clone Wars where he meets the Yoda Golem,
Mm.
and Yoda thinks, "Oh, I've conquered that. I'm a Jedi Master. I am." You know, and they're like, y- they know that he's got a dark side and he's not aware of it because he thinks he's so much a part of the light.
Oh.
And that's what I feel is the big theme that I'm sensing from the High Republic, which I want to see in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, about I
Now,
don't know. So you could tell me about that.
yeah, no, that's well, I have a video or two on the channel. Let's say that. No, I have an entire playlist of like 50 plus videos on the High Republic. So if you ever get bored,
Send me which one to watch.
watch.
That's along the lines of that theme. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I will watch it.
Now, Ben, this is our first ever, to my knowledge, Star Wars project that's literally a mystery thriller. Uh, her name is Leslie Headland, right?
Leslie Headland. Yep.
Leslie Headland.
Yeah.
Russian
Well,
doll,
technically, like the first half Attack of the Clones was a mystery.
True.
Yeah. Yeah. Technically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I believe the trailer was called Mystery when it was released.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Yeah.
But yeah, this
so-
is the first. I would say this is the first like formal, really marketed, like, in this fashion. I would say probably like, I mean, I can't really think of even going back to the Legends and EU stuff, like even books like. I mean, the only book that would really lean on mystery that comes straight to mind is Death Troopers, but that's about it. Like, other than that, like, there's nothing that really comes like immediately to mind. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting, like diving into this genre for sure, especially because like I saw some like quotes a week or two ago from Headland talking about like, I believe she took some of the inspiration from like the Wrong Jedi arc in Clone Wars. So, it's like the Ahsoka and Barriss stuff. So to me, that lays in more to our whole twin talk we had before, Chris, about that whole idea. And like, you have that potential there. And then, of course, like we all mentioned here, like you have the potential of like the Jedi, and their hubris and like overlooking these things. Because to me, anyways, based on all the trailers, even the trailers from before this marketing cycle's amped up in the last week, like I really feel like Carrie Ann Moss's character, Master Indara, is gonna. I think she's gonna be the character that gets killed to kick off like the Jedi are getting killed line or whatever. Like I think she might be the one, because the thing is with her character, all the shots we've seen of her are the same location, so it's like.
Yeah.
Either they really stuck to only this one location for the trailers, or this is the only location she's going to be involved in. So to me, I think there's a chance we kind of like, I don't know anything about this show, mind you, like spoilers or anything. So like, I think there's a chance maybe we get into like the mystery right off the bat, like maybe cold open to like Indara being out there doing something and then getting taken out, and then it sparks the show, kind of like like a Rogue One-esque cold open type thing maybe. Just because it's like, what's going to be the kickoff? Or was the mystery going to already be playing out? Like maybe Indara's investigating some murders going on or something, like maybe it's that. But I think early on in the show we're going to get the spark that is the spark to the whole murder mystery like trope we're getting with it.
True. Now, Milton, there is a lot of talk about the amazing level with the combat, with the martial arts. There's a lot more kung fu. I don't even want to call it kung fu, because it's just a variety of martial arts used. Actually, they just put out a video. Speaking of
The clip
videos,
today.
they put out a clip that was like, they ranted off like probably half a dozen different specific martial arts that are being used in this series. So as someone that really loves to dive into all that those movies and franchises with that, how are you feeling so far with just the overall action?
Right. I mean, look, I've been impressed with what I've seen with the lightsaber combat, the I guess the light whip they showed in the last trailer, which that's a callback to the EU
Yep.
with Lamaya from the I just listened to it the other day, the Legacy of the Force books. So that
Yep.
I remember that light whip in those books. So that's a nice callback that they pulled from the EU. Um, it's cool. I'm glad to see that they're actually going to utilize, kind of like that old school um, kung fu, kendo, hand to hand combat. Because I think that's all. I mean, obviously that's George Lucas's inspiration for the Jedi. We've known that all the Kurosawa stuff, how the Jedi's would move, how they would just be in control. But obviously they were badasses. They can pass in a minute. They really wanted to. So to take that inspiration, I think that's a beautiful thing because one of my gripes have been since Disney's taken over Star Wars has been the lack of combat in the movies
Yep.
or in the shows thereof, which makes no sense. So I'm glad that they're going back to the roots to show that hey, this was the golden age or silver age of the Jedi where combat was a thing. Even though they were very peaceful, they can still take your life if they needed to. A samurai is always in control. He or she can take your life no matter what. So
Mhm.
I'm glad we're going to see that type. And I'm curious to see what type of combat that they mix in and how they develop each person's character with it.
Yeah, Din, they showed us a clip at the end of the Phantom Menace 25th anniversary of Indar fighting May. Did you get a chance to check that out, by the way?
Absolutely not. I'm not going to go see George Lucas converted those movies to 3D. I'm not going to go pay money to see them in 2D again.
Ah, okay, okay,
And
okay.
I don't mean that like in a bitter way. I mean
Yep.
that in the fact that I saw every movie, since not Return of the Jedi, I can't remember, but Phantom Menace, every Star Wars thing premiere day. But I've seen Phantom Menace so many times. Part of the reason why I need those 3D releases is just so my brain can get engaged and see it in a new way again. So I
True.
didn't see it. Sorry.
Yeah, I
I
seen
also
it.
want to be a
Yeah.
spoiler. I keep not pressing. I watch the main trailer and that's it. Because I
Mhm.
really want to be surprised, especially by this one, because it is an era that's untouched.
Yep,
Yeah.
I
I want to
agree. And
feel
and
that
that's and
that
I think this is an
thing.
era that we've all been clamoring for. I mean, I feel like Chris, I know you've been the biggest open, hero for the High Republic, as you should, because you read all the books thus far. But obviously, I think all of us being fans of the EU, we've loved those Darth Bane books.
Yeah.
We loved, the Knights of the Old Republic video games. So to see this era of Star Wars come to life and hopefully they give us something that's different, but also something that's familiar too will be dope, and be like, okay, I maybe read that in the EU book. Yes, this is new, but I've seen pieces of where this can all fit.
Mm,
And it feels like Star Wars, and we're continuously building the universe.
exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. And going back to Din, so you read a lot, a decent amount of the EU. Did you ever read like Darth Plagueis book by any chance?
Oh yeah, I think Darth Plagueis to me is the only canon
Should be
book.
canon. Yeah, facts.
It's the only
Yeah.
canon book, from the point of view that it's the only book that George Lucas was involved with,
Oh, really?
directly
Mhm.
trading notes with the writer through
Yep.
his head office assistant, because
Oh.
it was very important to him that book sort of set up everything right. So
Well-
from that point of view, you could argue it's the only canon Star Wars novel.
Yep.
Well,
Other than
even-
maybe Dark Disciple.
That's a good point though. Now that I think about it, because you're right. Because now that you said it, because you're absolutely right. Because Splinter of the Mind Eye was the official, I guess, sequel kind of at the time of
Yeah.
New
in
Hope,
case it
but
couldn't get
George
greenlit.
had nothing to do with that. So with what Den just said, he's right about Darth Plagueis. I remember people talking about George was invested in that book, which is why we're always clamoring that should be canon. That set up Phantom Menace in such a way. It's like, oh my God, like just put that book in there.
Well, guys,
Or at least make an animated movie of that or something, like
Yeah.
truthfully. Like that story has to be told. But yeah, I liked, I even read A New Dawn, at the start of the Disney buyout. It's just Chris, I'm gonna dive into your podcasts now with The Acolyte and sort of start getting caught up on that era. that's also what I enjoy about the EU now, is that you can actually, it's like you can experience it like the storytelling around a campfire from your community. You don't even have to. Yeah, I could get the story that way, which I find fun. Yeah, but I read so much stuff. You know, I
Now,
read all
yeah.
of it up until recently.
Yeah.
Would you, Din, would you, I don't know, and this is a different perspective, I guess, from you, as far as like when you go into a new Star Wars anything, movie or series, do you ever give yourself like a little bit of expectations, like, oh, I would like to see this happen, or I hope this doesn't happen? For instance, maybe, just maybe, with the Acolyte, maybe they'll try to slowly like connect things with Darth Plagueis. Would you like to see, for
Yeah.
instance, like a Darth Tenebris or a
Yeah, let's say
Plagueis to show up in this thing at some point, or
Yeah.
would you rather have this as more of like an original story that's not as heavily tied in with something like that?
Well, it's got to be an original story, not heavily tied in to do well. But good Star Wars I think Hannah said this on Star Wars Underworld last week, that good, I want it to make me ask questions. So, it's so painful, Star Wars, when it's really good Star Wars, it answers some things, but then it answers 3 things, but it makes you ask 20 more questions that you're dying to find out about.
Right.
So, to me, that would be best case scenario, that Acolyte's going to answer maybe a couple of things about the rule of two and even Plagueis and Tenebris, but then make me want the prequel to that, to the Plagueis novel, make me really, or whatever. I want it to make me burn with that absolutely passionate need to know what the answers are. That
Yeah.
only Star Wars can do that for me. I don't know about you guys, but that seems to be the power of Star Wars,
No, you're right.
That it
I
just
think- I
makes
think-
us have these podcasts to talk about
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
might be.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I think you're right though. I think if Star Wars can make you, if Star Wars can make you feel comfortable with what you're seeing, but obviously make you think, oh my God, that's a great unanswered question. I need more of that. Then makes you go do podcasts like this, like Chris does his speculation videos. Like you're doing something right as a brand, whether it's Star Wars, Disney, DC, whatever. If you can make your fan base say, "Oh my God, I really enjoyed what I watched, and this is new, and this is an unanswered question we should need to explore," I'm gonna make 30 videos about it on YouTube. That brand's doing its job because that's driving more traffic to that brand to be seen.
Yeah.
Oh, what 100%. Like when it comes to that, I mean, I think a big thing, you always see people talking about like these sorts of things online, like especially in the Star Wars fandom. It's like, oh, do we want something like that's totally separate, or do we want something that's like semi-connected? So then you can have that connection to familiar like imagery or characters or locations or things like that. And I think like Milton said, I think a big way like they can do something like this is like make connections, like think I believe it was in Mando season 1. Yeah, Mando season 1, like when you just see the boots in the desert or whatever where Fennec Shand got shot, and you're like, wait, is that Boba Fett? Is that not? Speculation, boom, boom, boom. Like you have a lot of people, there's a gazillion, is this Boba Fett? Or like people, there were so many analyzation videos back then of Boba's boots in Empire versus these boots in Mando season 1 episode, I think 5. So it's like, it's to me, I think when you have like good, I would say healthy speculation, I think that's a good thing for the Star Wars brand, because it's like, would you rather have fans, be excited, be speculating? Like right now, all the chatter around this show is Darth Plagueis, Darth Tenebris, Darth Plagueis, Darth Tenebris, those types of things potentially popping up eventually. Would you rather have that be talked about? Or would you rather have that not be talked about and people just going in kind of mute saying, we're just excited just because it has Star Wars on the title, So like, I think it's like a happy balance they have to find with that. But like with the show like this, I would say, just depending, I'm on the time period alone. Like, obviously like we don't know the exact ages of Tenebris or Plagueis in canon, but at minimum, like Tenebris is probably in his 30s or 40s at this time, so like he should in theory be around. So it's just a matter of getting to that point. Are we going to get that by the end of the series? Because like, I have a stinking feeling we might, but it's just a matter of, maybe we get it by, if we get a second season of the show, maybe by the end of it, you get something like, kind of like you were saying, Din, on, maybe say end of season 2, we don't get maybe Tenebris in the flesh, but maybe we get like a hologram from the Acolyte looking at something of a location of this other character, and we don't know who it is, and then the show's over, and then maybe it leads into another Sith show or something. Like maybe we get something like that. Like I think there are different ways they can like seed it in, to potentially like giving us a Tenebris at some point, in one form or another.
What I really like about just the announcement when this first came out in 2020, and just thinking about it more, is, man, this is the first time we're gonna get a Star Wars project that's focusing on the dark side of something, as far as like a TV series or a movie or anything. I mean, you could say what you will about Revenge of the Sith, like, do you consider Anakin evil? Do you consider him just misled or whatever, and different things? But like, when you hear the word Acolyte, that is somebody that's like signing up to not do very good things, I guess. And in their perspective, every villain now thinks they're a hero to a certain degree, or they don't think they're doing wrong, right? That's the best villains out there. But yeah, Din, what do you think about that perspective of things, about, hey, this is something about the bad guys, basically?
Yeah, well, so Mike, studying ancient civilizations and art and all that, there's a sculpture of a Sithari in Palpatine's office in Revenge of the Sith.
Yep.
And he's got his arms like this and his hood down. Okay, that someone like George Lucas, who knows his art history, that is an homage to a very famous symbol of Giordano Bruno, who was like a Gnostic Hermeticist in an era where the church was killing them in Italy, in Europe. And there's a sculpture. He basically believed that Copernicus was right, that the Earth was not the center of the universe, but that the planet spun around the sun. And, Copernicus was locked up for that. Even he'd be showing people the proof in telescopes. But Giordano Bruno not only believed that, but he believed that there were infinite universes and infinite planets and infinite lives. And he was killed. I don't know if you know this, but the basic story is the Hermetic Gnostics and all that, they were like what's become today as like the Freemasons and all that, and Illuminati. They were people that were just killed, starting with the persecutions of Constantine when they made the church, the religion official of the Roman Empire. They started the persecutions. They had to wear crosses on their shoulders, so they started that bullshit branding. That happened in World War II with in heavy subject. Sorry, but the Christians started that crap. And sorry, I grew up a Christian, so I could talk about it. So I'm sorry. I'm not saying all Christians are bad, but to make this very long story short, George Lucas loves history, and that having Palpatine have a statue of someone who was a good person, who was part of a movement where they had the First Inquisition was started in France to kill them. Tens of thousands of people killed. Is just as bad what's happening in the world right now. But they had to go underground with a rule of two. This is real history. Not a rule of two, but master and apprentice to secretly pass on the Gnostic Egyptian Hermetic views of Christian Egyptian beliefs, and they believed in Jesus, but a different point of view and all that. And they had to go underground to not get killed. And they would even be priests and pretend to be part of, but they were practicing in secret underground and keeping the knowledge alive through centuries and centuries and centuries, millennia. So what I want this show to do is to do something like George Lucas, which would be to do something like what I'm saying, which is you thought you knew the Sith. Maybe the Sith were actually good people that were persecuted by the Jedi. And just because that's not me making it up, that's what that statue is suggesting in Palpatine's office. That iconography of him chained with his hood down, that's Giordano Bruno in Palpatine's office. That's it.
So
there's only one sculpture in art history that represented like that.
Here's what's funny about all that, and I've read stuff like that before, Because even, I mean, look at how Revenge of the Sith played out. Why do you think Mace Windu didn't get the governor, or didn't get the senator, didn't tell the senators about what they knew about Palpatine? Because they can't
Good question.
persecute someone
I don't know.
because of their religious beliefs. Because again, the Sith is a religious belief. The Jedi is a religious belief.
Ooh, I
That's
got
like
chills.
today. Oh, I'm a Christian, or I'm a Muslim, or I'm a Buddhist. Just because I'm one of that doesn't mean I'm a bad person. There's a different points of view on it. And a lot of people would say Christianity and the Muslim faith is very like similar in a lot of ways. You know, look at the Quran and the Bible and whatnot. So look at why Mace Windu did not make it public when he found this news out to say, hey, Palpatine's a Sith, let's go arrest him, but that's persecute him for his religious beliefs. Because really, is he a bad guy? It's all a point of view. So I again,
That is
look at the history. This is why I tell people all the time: Star Wars is one of the
mind-blowing.
greatest. Star Wars is one of the greatest things ever made, because if you actually know your religious history, you know world history. George Lucas took the time to really understand it, which Carl Jung, who he studied under, would tell you he's one of his best students that he's ever had. George like went to him to understand like philosophy and all that stuff. So,
Well, Joseph Campbell, who studied
or
Carl
Joseph
Jung.
Campbell, yeah, thank you, not Carl Jung.
Yeah.
Joseph, thank you.
But it's all a line from
Yeah.
Jung. He started it all. You're right.
Yep.
That's a mind-blowing thought. Like you're gonna go to the Senate and persecute Palpatine
Yeah.
for his religious beliefs. You
Yeah.
can't
Exactly.
do that.
You can't do that.
I didn't know I could see something new in that movie. Thank you for that insight. That's
Yep, you're welcome.
fantastic.
Wow, he taught then something on that level. That's great. Here
Dude,
we
I'm saying,
go. Here we go.
but that's the one thing about the show I'm actually curious about too, because think about it though, like we're going to see a different perspective of what we thought we knew of like this of the Sith, and the, you know what I'm saying, like it's like, okay, are they really doing something bad? Now obviously Palpatine twisted it, you know, obviously, but it's
Which
like
is what
prior
happened in
to
our
that,
world.
yes,
Yeah.
prior to that though,
Because
what
those
what
people.
was it?
Sorry, I'm getting
No,
so
you
excited.
good.
That's all. I'm not intro. I'm just getting
No.
excited.
I
Sorry.
love it. I love this conversation. Like, I'm a huge history nerd too. I watch documentaries all the time.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like that's what happened in our real world is that those good people had to learn secret means. Like Bernini, who did St. Peter's Square of the Vatican, could have gotten killed for that. He was expressing in symbolism Copernicus's idea that an elliptical path was traveled by the planets around the sun, not a perfect circle. And the dead center of that circle is an obelisk from the city of On, which the Greeks translated as Heliopolis, which means city of the sun, in St. Peter. So he could have gotten killed for, he literally spent all their money to subversively put this idea where it shouldn't be. And to me, all I'm trying to say is by having that sculpture in Palpatine's office, George Lucas is suggesting that kind of a history, and I want Acolyte to do what George does,
Right.
which is even make me wrong, have it something else, but just make it that what you thought was the Sith, you don't know. It's
And-
actually much different than what you know.
And
Yeah.
jumping off this point, oh, go ahead, Ben.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, and like, that's a trope. I think you mentioned it briefly before. I think you mentioned it, Chris, just a few minutes ago. But like, that's a trope we've seen so much in like modern media now. Like, I mean, look at just in the past 5-6 years. Look at the whole thing with Thanos in the MCU. Like, he thinks he's doing the right thing for the universe, and yada yada yada. Like, it's different perspectives and things. And I think, like you and Milton were both saying, Dan, like, I think it's gonna be maybe something like that with the Sith in this show, because like, say what you want about like, the line in the Phantom Menace, the whole Kiadi-Mundi line, Sith have been extinct for millennia, blah 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 blah. But like, these are going to be Sith characters in this show. Like, let's not like beat around the bush there. They're going to be Sith, and it's just we're going to see a different perspective of potentially what they are, because like I don't know, I really don't think, we're not going to get surface level, hey, let's take over the galaxy. Like, it's not going to be something like that. It's going to definitely be more of like a bigger, like, contrived plan or conceived plan than just like, something really surface level.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess to answer the question was, if I don't get that, maybe that's where I will be disappointed. But
But this will be the opportunity to make it non-surface level. I mean, this is where you really dive into the religious aspect of both the Jedi and the Sith. I mean, go back and really peel the onion, understand, as we mentioned earlier in the episode, like the dogmatic turn with the Jedi. And then also look at how the Sith evolved. I mean, look at Revenge of the Sith novelization when Yoda is fighting Palpatine and he's having that inner dialogue. And he said, we were preparing for the old ways of the Sith, where the Sith actually evolved and changed their ways. I want to see those seeds being planted here in this show to say, okay, this is what the Sith was. What did they do to make the adjustment to say, okay, we're going to move past the old ways of what the Sith was to evolve to, I guess, get to a means to an end past the Jedi. You know what I'm saying? And see how the Jedi just sits there and say, oh, wait, this is working for us. Let's just sit here. I kind of want to see that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Where was that quote from?
That was from the Revenge of the Sith novelization, which was
yeah,
written
good
by
novel.
Matthew Stover, which I believe George also had a little hand in that as well. And so, like, go back and read that excerpt. Yoda says, like, he knew he lost,
Remember.
within like the first like half of the fight, because he's like, okay, he's like, we're not where the Sith is. We've been fighting an old fight. We're not evolved. The Sith has changed. We prepared for the old Sith.
I do remember that now. That's a good book.
Yeah.
But yeah, the impact, right? We talk about what lasting impact will a series or movie have on Star Wars as a whole. So Din and Milton, as you guys put it, just like flipping the script. Oh, the Sith are not just straight evil. That would be amazing. We spent a lot of time talking about George Lucas, as we all should, the maker himself. There was a really cool video, Ben, that came out last week, I think, and it was Leslie Headland talking with Dave Filoni. And it was just like a nice casual 3-minute conversation. And we talk about, okay, an impact like that the show will make. I feel pretty good about Leslie Headland steering the ship on this one. Just from, the couple-minute conversation, she knows her stuff. She's very knowledgeable. She understands what George Lucas had done. And she's on that same. She could be potentially another kind of Dave Filoni from the sounds of it. What do you think about the?
I think she's got. Let's get through the series before we like make that comparison. But I think though, when it comes to that conversation, it was a good little conversation. I do think though, with Lucasfilm, I don't want to be. I don't want to sound like, well, I guess let me go Sith side of things here for a moment. But I don't want to be too cynical. But I do think this is actually a very, very smart marketing move by Lucasfilm, because what other person other than George Lucas behind the camera do fans love more? Dave Filoni. So what show, we have seen mixed things in the media one way or another, whether people like it or not. Some people in the fandom are weird about the show. Other people's aren't, whatever, you have different views on it. But I think an easy way to just kind of like shut everybody up for a moment is just throw Dave Filoni into a video, because then it's like, hey guys, look, your guy that you really like is talking about the show with the creator of the show. So just be quiet for a little bit. So I do think that's a really smart move from like the PR side of things, because that's like, Chris and Milton, that's like one of my biggest critiques of Star Wars under the Disney umbrella is, their PR has been trash, flat out trash. Up until now, this Acolyte marketing campaign has been different. It's been different for the better, in my opinion, because like they've gotten stuff like this Dave Filoni video out there. They've shown tons of pictures of Dave and Leslie Headland together at the premiere. All these things. Even I know some of the creators that were there, like the YouTubers, they were in a behind the scenes things with Leslie and Dave. So you have these sorts of things where Dave's getting involved. At minimum, whether the show's great or not, it's just good PR moves from Lucasfilm, because they've had really bad, just flat out bad fan relations over the past several years. It's well documented. So my thing is, I really think them doing that is a really smart PR move on a show where you're going into the unknown. You have different things about the show out there. And I think with like, and when you go and include someone like Dave Filoni, it kind of blunts it because, like, for me, for example, you know, I'm very fair when it comes to my critiques and stuff. But when I saw the video of Dave and Leslie Headland talking, it blended my skeptical excitement. It blended it a little, or it blended the skeptical side a little more because I saw Dave Filoni in the video, you know? So I think it's just really smart marketing. But in terms of like the context of the conversation, yeah, I think it was a good little conversation. We need more of that. We need more transparency from Lucasfilm as well, because like that's another issue. Like, give us more of those things with what's the next show coming out? Oh, so like Skeleton Crew. Like with that show, give us John Watts talking with some of the other directors on the show. Give us more transparency leading into the show versus, you know, the past like 7-8 years, Lucasfilm is so buttoned up, so tight on everything. It's like now maybe just start opening the marketing doors to a better extent. Like, you know, look into what fans want to hear more from. And like, you know, we all know Dave got got that new promotion, you know, last year or whatever. Like, since he's up there now, throw him out into more of these marketing cycles. Like, let him be out, let him be kind of the like the Kevin Feige-esque marketing front for Star Wars. Like, let him talk to the media a little more. Just because
you want him to be the face of the franchise.
Yeah, face of the franchise. That's actually an excellent way to put it, Milton, because you know what I'm saying, Milton, because if you put Dave out in front at minimum, you're going to shut up, you're going to quiet down a lot of the people that would like give a show a side eye. They'd be like, well, Dave's talking about it, and Dave's explaining the perspective a little better, because, you know, we've had choppy communication from people. I mean, even Jon Favreau's been choppy on his communication, and then Dave comes out like the next day, like when we had the timeline of like when Baby Yoda was, or when Grogu was, you know, going back to Luke.
Yep.
You know, Favreau came out and tripped over his own words on that video, and then Dave kind of just like laughed in an interview and kind of like talked around it much better than Favreau communicated. So I feel like that's a good example though, Milton. I really think if they go that face of the franchise route with Dave, that could, in terms of just purely marketing, I think that would help like astronomically.
Yeah, it definitely feels different this last 2 weeks going into the Acolyte, seeing great stuff behind the scenes. It's always great seeing the crew. Amandla is an amazing musician. Had John Williams create an original violin piece for her of the Star Wars theme, the Force theme. So just like seeing really fun videos like that is just cool to put it into perspective, because a lot of people are watching these videos going, who's that? But just like the taglines, before the Empire, before the Menace, like all that cool, like that gets your attention. But we are going to wrap things up for this evening. Din, so thankful for you to get on here, man. I've been meaning you to get on this podcast for a while, because I always truly love listening to your thoughts on Star Wars. It's always fun to just, especially in this case, you and Milton, you guys just giving your expertise to history and historical context with Star Wars, doing stuff that I've never dived into, getting this other perspective is just always so insightful, man. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, the thanks is all mine, and thank you. All you guys have been great. And Milton, you've been great to chat with. Not just saying that, you know. I don't actually really ever get to, like, when I start talking about real world history and Star Wars, every Matt, they all just like, oh, he's going on again. So to have someone like Milton to rip up and to really,
it's a beautiful thing, because if you really did pay attention to a lot of that world history and look at how movies are made or TV shows, or just life in general, you'd be surprised. And as you know, Dan, you'd be like, oh my God, I've seen this before. I've read this before. I see the themes and how it's woven into like religion and politics or whatnot. So it's so dope to get this conversation too.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you. And I just wanted to just say one thing on that. It's like, George Lucas's idea for a Padawan was that you teach the Padawan, and the Jedi way is to let go, so that you teach them well enough that they can rise above what you achieved. that's the Jedi way, right? So you're truly always thinking about the future so that it will get better, not you. The art form. Um, I started to think, well, like who will Dave's Padawan be? And I'm not saying it'll be Leslie Headland, but the joy I got out of watching that 2-minute clip was like, and everything else that she said is like, that's a real fan who really thinks about this stuff and is really excited about it. And I think if that doesn't sell you on the show, what else would? You have someone who's like really a fan of this era, and because I just felt like there was something between the two of them where they could vibe on that level as fans,
Yes,
But like
seriously.
the more nuanced Star Wars stuff, yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
one more thing, guys, before we wrap it up, too. Now that you point that out, Den, I think another little tidbit to think about going into this show. Dave and her chatting this much, like maybe that does give more credence to our idea. Maybe there will be more connections potentially, to certain things like your Darth Plagueuses or Tenebris's or even the Sith Code, like different Sith things, because Dave's getting involved with it. Because like we didn't see stuff like that with Andor, for example. So like maybe with Dave being a little more like in the marketing and stuff like this, maybe there's a little more credence to the whole connecting to like all of that dark side stuff.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'd imagine there'll be a connective stuff between Prime Jedi, Acolyte,
Oh
and
yeah.
Mando verse, wherever that's going.
Yeah, please plug where everybody can listen to your music, where you're going to be on tour, all that good stuff, man.
But yeah, so starting in LA, July 30 at Third Wheel, and then the Barrel, and then I'm gonna busk outside of Scum and Villainy
Oh, cool.
on the Tuesday night that Boonta Eve is going on there, just because friends will be, in town from all over the world. So just to say hi. And then I'll be in Santa Barbara, and then on my way up through San Francisco to play in Victoria, BC. My handle is at F105 Music, and the website is f105music.com for all videos, music, live updates, streaming platform links. Yeah, thank you.
There you go. There you go. Check them out. Check them out. And Milton, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, you can find me on X at Milton Weber 7 or on Instagram at Milton 7 Weber. I think I got it right. I always get them twisted up. But yeah, you can follow me on both those social media platforms. I usually post funny memes and workout stuff on my Instagram because I like to keep it positive, like to keep it fun and light. But yeah, I really appreciate everyone listening, watching the podcast. Dan, it was good to have you on the show, man.
Heck yeah.
Thank you.
Heck
Thank
yeah.
you. I'm just looking you up on Instagram now.
Yeah, Milton 7 Weber. Yeah, it's very, very simple.
Okay.
What about you, Ben?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram is always the main place at Real Ben Maynard. I'm always just talking fitness, or we'll just share little funny Star Wars reels and things on there. Also, one little reaction. I know we didn't cover the one trailer with the character that was in it. I'm not sure. I know Milton and Den haven't seen it since they've been kind of out of it.
I don't know if you want to talk about it because these.
No.
guys are trying to stay away.
I'm just gonna say one word. Just what's your one word reaction to it, Chris? For me, it's I would say actually very intriguing. I'm very intrigued to see what that character's about.
Yeah, excited. I mean, it's like it's
Yep.
such an easy word, but it's the first thing.
Yep.
But,
It sounds big. I appreciate you not saying it. You're like,
No. Yeah, I'll just let you. I'll let you guys marinate on that for the next 48 hours.
Okay. All right. Now I'm getting excited.
There you go. And they can find you over at Real Ben Maynard on
Yep.
on
Yep.
Twitter.
Real Ben Maynard. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram.
There you go. And you can find me here. I was so into introducing Din, I didn't even go over my usual housekeeping plugs and all that stuff for the channel. So I'll do that now. You can find us here every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, breaking down the latest Acolyte episodes from here on out. Next week, we'll be talking about the 2-episode premiere. again, also next week we're going to have maybe some Star Wars game news to talk about because the Summer Games Fest, which used to be called E3, the rebranded thing, is going to be starting on Friday. So we might have some Star Wars news either Friday or Sunday. Definitely on Monday, they're going to be showing more Star Wars Outlaws, the Ubisoft Forward. So yeah, we'll come back the next week to talk more about that, I guess. But yeah, you can find us here, Outer Rim Transmission. You can search us on any podcast streaming network. Please give us a review and rate us for a good Star Wars positive community that we're trying to build here on YouTube, on the podcast realms of things. But yes, that is going to do it for Outer Rim Transmission 155. For Din, for Ben, for Milton, for I, Chris, aka Star Raptor, that's going to do it. Have a good one. May the Force be with you always. End transmission.